everybody. Welcome to Rachel's Reviews. This is so exciting. We are here for another episode of the Female Film Critics Speak Out panel, where I gather some of my friends from YouTube and from the world of criticism, and we talk about the challenges of being a critic, a female film critic in this toxic day and age, and we get to share each other's experiences, and I've just really enjoyed getting to do it so far. And I have some really special guests today, particularly with it being October. I thought it would be fun to get a perspective of some awesome female content creators who are in the horror space and talk about their experiences. And so I'm joined today first by Amy Cassandra Martinez is here.
Hello.
Yes. And Shannon McGrew is here.
Hello.
Yes. So I'd like to start out with each of you introducing yourself and telling a little bit about how you became a critic or a YouTuber, depending on what you do. And so Shannon, why don't you start out and explain your journey?
Sure. So I run the entertainment site Nightmarish Conjurings. I started it about, I think it's like 6 years ago. I had just finished reading Stephen King's It, and I was furious. And my friends were tired of me talking about how mad I was about the ending. So they're like, you should just start like a little blog. And I was like, okay. And that little blog ended up snowballing into pretty much a full-time site.
Yeah, that's great. What about you, Amy? How did you start up your channel?
I'm a host, like an entertainment host, so I love to talk about movies and all geeky things and horror things, but it all started with trailer reactions. I would have to say, like, I had my YouTube channel back since college when we had to get one, but it wasn't until I started doing trailer reactions with Avengers Infinity War that I feel my channel started to really grow. And then after that, I was like, you know what? I want to do more stuff. Let's just talk about movies some more. And then from there, that turned into the horror show that I now do weekly on my channel. And so it's very much like a growing community. So every single year, every single month, it feels like it evolves. So yeah, trailer reactions, I would say, is how I started.
Yeah, and you still do a lot of trailer reactions, it seems like, on your channel.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like the most recent one that people were excited about was the Batman trailer reaction. So
yeah,
that
was a really fun one. I watched that one for your video. That was really fun.
I'm so glad. Now I'm like, oh my God, what did you see? What did I do? Yeah.
I also watched your Snyder Cut reaction, and that was fun too. That looked like that was a pretty controversial one.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So what do you think, Shannon, what do you think that women add to the world of criticism that is unique? And why do you think it is necessary to have the perspective, particularly in the world of horror and horror critique? What do you think that women add to the discussion?
Well, I think with horror in general, you're talking about a genre that uses monsters for both, well, a lot of times they're metaphors for something else. I think women, or anyone that identifies as a woman, knows what it's like every day to encounter horror in their own way, whether it's going outside to get your car and having your keys in your hands, or making sure somebody knows where you are if you're traveling to another place, things of that nature. I think women are kind of just used to having to take precautions. And I think that women's voices, especially with different subgenres of horror, such as rape revenge, need to be vocalized more, because that is, we don't need to keep hearing men retell stories like that. Like, women need to have the opportunity to be able to express, storylines that affect them on a much higher scale.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, because I mean, in most horror movies, the female is the final girl, is the victim that is being pursued. And so to not have a woman's voice kind of critiquing and speaking out and giving response, I think just wouldn't make sense.
And as like a kind of to piggyback off that, you know, when we think of the final girl, it's usually always somebody that is embedded with these tropes of like, she's a virgin and she's innocent and she's attractive and it's like, that doesn't need to always be what the final girl is. Like, they can be flawed and still be a final girl. They don't have to be like the pinnacle of beauty. Like, they can be any of us. And I think that that's important.
Yeah. Amy, what do you think about having female perspectives in the world of criticism?
Well, we're in movies.
Right.
We're in movies. Yeah. So we should be able to talk about how we're depicted in movies. Like, that's it. If we watch a horror movie and the woman is going through something and it doesn't feel realistic, 9 times out of 10 it's because it wasn't written by a woman, or there was no woman around to be like, that's not how that works. You don't, okay, cool. And so then for us to be able to point out and say like, hey, you know what? That didn't really work. Let's try to do better next time. You know, I feel like at the end of the day, I talk about on my show all the time that I have a difficult time sometimes talking about movies in depth and really critiquing them like hardcore, because at the end of the day, I'm like, you guys made movies and kudos to you, because it takes a lot of work to even get to that point where you've already released it and the world can see it. But at the end of the day, we're also trying to actively get better in all facets of our life. And I think that also includes movies. Like, we don't want our movies to just go downhill. And I think kind of nitpicking a little bit and being like, you know what, that didn't work this time. If you have a sequel, change that. Yeah, I mean, women talking about movies is just important because we watch all kinds of movies. And I feel like sometimes we might get just put into this little section of, I guess, a genre, right? So like rom-coms. I love rom-coms, right? Like I grew up obsessed with rom-coms. So for me to now talk about horror, I can understand maybe people might be confused, but it's like, you know what? We can like it all. And we can talk about it all.
That's right.
So that's what's important, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of really good things you just said there. And it's something, as a film critic or trying to become an established film critic, something I always try to remember, that at least the people that have made whatever it is I'm critiquing have made something. And I think at the speech by Anton Ego in Ratatouille, he says that the bitter truth we critics must face is that in the grand scheme of things, the average piece of junk is probably more meaningful than our criticism designating it so. And I always try to keep that in mind, that not that what I do is junk, I try to do as good a job as I can, but to remember that it's a privilege to get to critique what people have created and to try to be respectful of that. I think it's really important. And then Ego goes on to talk about how the critics, when the critic is doing their job, is when not only in providing that criticism, but also in defense of the new. So the new needs friends. And so if we can kind of counterbalance the critique side of it, and sort of the temptation to rant and rave and in those kinds of things, but with a defense of the new, and with a introducing people to something that they might not have ever heard of before or seen it before if it wasn't for our content. And I think that's what becomes really rewarding and really special. I don't know. What do you think, Shannon, about what Amy said?
I definitely agree. I think, so Nightmarish Conjurings has about 40 or 50 writers that we kind of circulate. And I've always been big on like, you can critique, but let's not be like outright mean. Because this is somebody that has spent time and money and energy and passion and blood, sweat, and tears creating something. Does that mean there hasn't been times that we have been harsh before? There have been things that have driven that, but for the most part, I'm very big on, like, let's not just be mean for the sake of being mean. Like, if you don't like something, let's explain why we don't like it or why it doesn't fit in. And I think that that's important. Also, to Amy's point, I really like that she brought up that, you know, women can be a part of everything. We don't have to be pigeonholed to one genre. And, you know, to both your points, I'm not a big rom-com person. And it's like, just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I have to like those films.
Right.
I grew up watching horror, you know. I did go through a phase where I liked rom-coms, but, you know, we can do whatever.
Yeah, there, and the idea that, as somebody who is in the rom-com community for a lot that I cover, the idea that that's somehow like easy or like of less value is such rubbish. That it's really hard to get that chemistry right, to get things so that it's an enjoyable experience, and so it's all important and valuable. And, you know, it's kind of about where does your audience lead you as far as what you end up covering and what you end up, but it's yeah, we can enjoy all of it. And I think it's really fun actually to get out of I will talk a little bit later about my experience with horror, but it's fun, I think, to get out of your comfort zone and to really push yourself into these genres that maybe you think that, oh, I don't like that genre, and then you try out a few things and you're like, oh, well, I did actually like that. It makes you a more interesting person. But how have you felt, Amy, how have you felt as far as your reception as a YouTuber in particular within the horror community? Because there is sort of I think I've heard from other people that it can be not the most welcoming of community as far as female voices. Have you felt any of that, or do you feel like it's been pretty accepting?
I still feel a little bit outside of it. I'm very much, I mean, if you look at my YouTube channel, you'll see a lot of trailer reactions for all kinds of things, a lot of nerdy content, and a lot of playlists of stuff that I do for other outlets. So I've definitely started to not necessarily rebrand, but like add horror to it, because I realized, you know what, like I need more people to talk about horror with, and I don't know where they are. So that's why I started doing the show. And since then, I mean, it's a small but strong community, and I feel like, especially because it is live, I get to see what people are thinking, you know, their thoughts on some movies. Have they seen them? Have they not? And if they give me recommendations, like I have a Discord now, it's just keeping that conversation going, and also welcoming people that don't necessarily like horror or are scared of it. I feel like, I don't know, I look like 20, 18, 23, whatever, and I look like I wouldn't normally like horror. But for me, the bigger, the gorier, the messier, the more disgusting, I'm so there. I love it so much. So it's certainly like kind of jarring, I must think, for people to see me and then hear me talk about stuff. But yeah, I still feel like I'm very much outside of it. And the people that I have talked to about horror, they've been great. And if not, then I get people that aren't in that community saying, I don't like horror, and I'm like, look, okay, here's the thing. Horror is kind of like riding a bike. You're not going to go from walking to riding a bike. You're going to go from walking to maybe wanting to ride a tricycle. And then you're going to get super experienced with the tricycle and then ride the bike. That's the problem I think that a lot of people have with horror, is that they went from 0 to 60 and they got super scared and they're like, nah, I'm good. I don't ever want to do that again. And I feel like maybe having that conversation open up, be like, you know what? Let's start off with a level 1 horror movie, okay? And then go to level 2, level 3. These levels are all made up, and I just kind of figure out as I go. But it's just, yeah, I mean, like I said, I feel like I'm very outside of it still. But the more I go into the world, the more I feel like, yeah, these are my people. I love it. And so far, so good. So,
this week I'm doing Disney Scares Month on my channel. This is my 5th year doing Disney Scares Month for October, and that's sort of the idea, is to try to find movies that are like family movies, but that can sort of subtly introduce people into the genre and give them a feel for what they might like or not like. I mean, it's not going to be too scary with Disney. And this week I actually did a collab with Lee from Drum Dums, and he has a great channel, and we talked about Watcher in the Woods, which is a Disney film when back in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, when I think it was actually made in 1980, I believe. But anyway, when Ron Miller was head of Disney and they were trying to go into some more darker places, and that was one of the things I talked about in my review, was that that this would be a really good gateway horror thing, because nobody's murdered, nobody died, there's no rape or murder or anything. It's all supernatural, kind of spookiness. So I feel like it's a good kind of gateway to kind of understanding that world and what's happening. I think that has a lot of value, trying to introduce people to, you just become a more interesting person the more art you can try to absorb, and your preferences may, like, I don't think I'm ever going to be like the world's biggest horror fan, but I nevertheless have been trying to get out of my comfort zone since I became a Rotten Tomatoes critic, so that I can review anything that anybody gives me. And it's been a really good experience. And I think I'm a more interesting person as a result. And so I don't know, what do you think, Shannon, as far as the horror community and them being receptive or not receptive of female voices? Do you feel like that's something that's getting better?
Oh, well, I haven't gotten any death threats, so that's good.
That's good. They're not fun. You don't want them.
Yeah, I've gotten close. It had to do with Terminator. You would think I like killed a baby live on air, but I think that it's better, definitely. I like seeing more diversity and inclusivity within the community. This is a really hard question for me, as I'm trying to be really good about my answer. I think that there's some struggles still. I think that there's a lot of things from how the community was built in the past that affect still to this day certain aspects of the horror community, and I think that can be an issue, but I think that they're getting better at, much better at allowing for more voices to be heard, except for just cis white males.
That's good. Amy, do you feel like people focus on your appearance more than they would for a male critic? And is that hard? Is that challenging?
I feel like they focus not necessarily on my appearance, but they might focus on the fact that I'm just a girl, that I'm a woman, and they're like,
right.
What are you doing? And that, I mean, as much as I say I'm still outside of the horror community, sure, I know that maybe once I fully get into it, there's always going to be those people that just can't stand having more people in their bubble. That's happened a lot of times in the nerd community and geek world. And I face that a lot, because it's like, what do you mean? So like, you can be a girl and like Captain America? I don't understand. But like, you just like the way he looks, right? No. No, we can have multiple layers. So it's definitely, it feels like I have to break down a wall already that's always going to be built there for maybe women too, for women watching me, for men watching me maybe, that it's just like, what is she saying, and does she have value in what she's saying? Because the way I look at her, she just looks like she's a kid. Like, who cares, right? What could she possibly add to the conversation? So I feel like there's already that obstacle no matter what. But at the end of the day, I mean, people can tell you if you're being real or not, at least what they think. Because then it's like, you take it with a grain of salt, right? You're always going to get those stupid comments and the trailer reactions of like, psh, this girl doesn't know what she's talking about. And it's like, honey, did you even watch the trailer reaction?
Yeah.
Did you not? Okay. Or they try to nitpick how you've done it, you know, where it's like, hey guys, trailer reactions aren't necessarily a place for you to watch the trailer for the first time. So the audio is going to be very low. So watch the trailer, then come here. Don't nitpick what I'm doing, and don't say that the trailer volume is too low and it's hard to focus when I'm talking, because it's a trailer reaction. Now, would you say that to a guy? I don't think so.
Mhm.
You know, there's just so many of these things that I'm like, at the end of the day, I just shut them out because I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for me.
Yeah.
To help others too, yeah.
Well,
But
and
at the end of the day, it has to be me.
people are so funny about trailer reactions because they don't want, or at least some people don't want your actual trailer reaction. They want you to mirror their reaction. And they don't, it's like, why are you watching? Just react to it yourself. It's like, start up a channel, do your own reactions. Like, if you don't want to see my reaction, why are you watching my content? Why are you watching my channel? And I mean, I've definitely felt the whole, it's a lot of times I end up writing my reviews as opposed to doing them on YouTube, because I just felt like sometimes there's a barrier that isn't there with writing, in people focusing on the way that I look, or the fact that I'm a woman, or the fact that I am a bigger person, or all those kinds of things, and it's like, you haven't even commented on anything that I said. All you're doing is, saying I'm a, fat bewitch, like, that doesn't have anything to do with it. Like, do you think you're hurting my feelings? Like, do you think you're the first person that said that to me? And it's just frustrating, where I feel like they wouldn't jump to personal appearance as quickly for a male YouTuber as they do sometimes for a female YouTuber. And that can be frustrating when it's like, you didn't pay attention to anything I said. All you cared about is the fact that, what I look like. I think that can be frustrating.
That's happened a lot to me for voicing opinions. That immediately goes to, well, you're fat and ugly. And I'm like, this has nothing to do with the movie I just talked about. What? Because I had an opinion? And then I'm like, okay, thank you.
So I just get back to just writing, because I feel like also just the fact that you actually have to like read in order, that's also sort of, as opposed to YouTube, which is sort of easier to digest, is that, they actually have to read to be ticked off at what I'm saying. Well, what I've had my guests do in these panels is have them come prepared with an unpopular opinion that they had, and we're going to talk about it and talk about what that experience is like. And so, Shannon, what did you come up with for that?
So my unpopular opinion was I loved Joker, and I don't know if we're allowed to swear, but wow, were people mad.
Yeah. Well, so that's so interesting, because I've had people on this panel, Daniel Solzman in particular, who had to go to the authorities because she didn't like Joker and got death threats to her family and to her. And sometimes I feel like with these comic book movies, there's just it's no win either way. If you like it, then you're a fanboy and you don't care. Yeah. If you don't like it, then you're a hater. And
it's really bizarre, because at the end of the day, I'm like, y'all, these are just movies. Like, we did not cure cancer. We watched a movie. And I tried to explain to people that, there was so much discourse about Joker before it came out. So many people had established opinions, and I get it, I guess, and that's fine. But then I went and saw the movie because I wanted to form my own opinion. I thought it was a phenomenal way to bring forth and discuss mental illness. Is it the perfect way? Probably not. Definitely not, considering what happens. But I thought it brought up a conversation that needed to be happen, and how society treats those with mental illnesses. That said, if somebody hates it, that's fine. That is their opinion. But you would think that, like, to this day, the world exploded, like, with some people. Nobody should get death threats if they like it. Nobody should get threats in general about any movie. It's not that.
Well, and what's funny too about that movie is, I'm like, did the people that, whether it's people that are harassing people because they like it or don't like it, it's like, did you watch the movie at all? The whole point of the movie was about how we treat people terrible, and how we don't, we dehumanize people. That was the whole point. So why are you doing it? You're doing exactly what the movie was about not doing.
And I get it. Like, I'm not a huge comic book person. So I couldn't sit here and be like, yes, it followed, was it The Killing Joke or whatever the comic was, like, exactly. I don't know all the timelines of Joker or all of that. I just went in thinking I'm a fan of villainous characters. I love a good villain. I love to see how they become the person that they become. I find that interesting. But I think there were issues with dehumanizing the character, and I get that, but it didn't deter me from
Your
best
enjoyment.
film. Yeah, the best film that came out that year.
Very good. Amy, what about you? What's an unpopular opinion that you've had that stands out?
Well, I was thinking of one, and your conversation earlier pointing out the trailer reaction that I did for Suicide Squad reminded me of an even worse one that I got. So we're gonna one. Before I became massively obsessed with horror, I was first a geek. And so I think now it's like I've just expanded. There's more stuff that I geek out about. But with that being said, I didn't necessarily grow up loving Marvel, but I definitely kind of just like fell into it and then fell in love madly, deeply, quickly. It was beautiful. But I did know about DC, and I was like, yeah, okay, well, like, let me try to watch some DC stuff. And besides Christopher Reeve's Superman, I hadn't been successful in finding something that I was like super pumped about. That has since changed because of the Batman. Woo-woo! But when I was on Popcorn Talks, the box office breakdown panel, we basically just broke down the top 5 movies in the box office every weekend. And so it was just a fun time for us to chat about the movies. And when Justice League. When Justice League came out, I was like, okay, yeah, like, let me give it a shot. I really like Jason Momoa. I had started watching Game of Thrones, and I was like, whoa, there's a lot of him doing things, and I like, let me just like give it a shot. And also Batfleck, what? Okay, sure. I watched it because this was obviously after Wonder Woman, and I was like, yeah, Gal Gadot, yeah, this is cool. And I was so disappointed with Justice League, and I was just like, what the heck was that? Especially after, unfortunately, having seen some wonderful Marvel movies where all of them team up. And I was like, I don't want to compare it to Marvel because it is possible for people to like both, and I want to like both. I want to love both. But the fact that I didn't like it, I had to actively not read any of the comments. All the thumbs downs were like insane. The producers for Popcorn Talk were like, whoa, what happened? And I was like, oh, I had an opinion about Justice League, so like, don't worry about it. I'm like, okay. And I'm like,
well, now it's probably the reverse. If you like Justice League, then people are like, oh, like, because
I don't know anybody that likes it.
Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, so if I'm too excited, like I am, or like I was with Infinity War and Endgame, it's like, you're putting on a front. You're not actually that excited. If I'm not that excited, you hate everything. Okay. If I'm kind of lukewarm, you hate it. So I'm like, I have feelings. They're mine. You're not going to tell me my feelings are wrong. I didn't have a blast. Good for them that they finished the movie. I didn't like it. But my God, there were so many, like, I got tweets that were just sent to me after the fact, and I was like, meh. Or like, ooh, are you going to watch all these movies so that you can understand Justice League? Meh. Or like all these things.
That's
I'm like, you know what?
Funny.
Go waste your energy on something else. But it was more exciting, I think, for me, not reading the comments and being like, look at all this engagement, guys. Like, look at views. Woo! So suck it.
Yeah. I had a similar experience. Most people who follow my channel and have been watching these know my story with what happened when I didn't love Shazam. I didn't think it was the worst movie in the world or anything, but I didn't go fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. And you'll understand this, Amy, when you get added to Rotten Tomatoes. They don't care anything about what you said. If you go rotten on a movie that they like, especially if you are one of the first early ones. A lot of times it's a movie they haven't even seen, and they will be. It doesn't matter any of the reasons that you had. The fact that you go rotten is just that's it. And I had a group on Facebook called F Marvel Tards. They targeted me and they said that that I was they said that I was an RT sheep, and that she said they said let's invade her profile and teach her a lesson. And they said that they wanted me off YouTube and never to review a DC film ever again. And so then a couple of hours later,
so dramatic.
My
know,
goodness.
it's unbelievable. And then a couple of hours later, I got a message from on Facebook from somebody who says, "I will kill you and your family. If you go to another press screening, I will bring an automatic gun and shoot you multiple times. I swear I will do that."
Oh my God.
And so I actually had to contact obviously the screening company. I had to contact them and tell them I had to inform the FBI that a mass shooting had been threatened. And of course, Facebook was practically useless. And they're going to be, well, it's through the messaging system and that's a different company or whatever. So, but then finally they did something. And of course this idiot, just a few, like the next after I had exposed him, a couple of days later, it's like, "Oh, I was just kidding. I was joking." And I'm like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" I mean, I didn't respond to him, of course, but anyway, it was just unbelievable. And I thought that I had been creating content for a decade. I thought that I was pretty strong and that I had pretty thick skin, but it definitely shook me to my core.
Absolutely.
And like it's just not something that you normally experience, being told that, you know, that there's going to be a mass shooting because of your feelings on Shazam. And it really scared me. I mean, it took me a long time when I finally did the response to DC Fandom. I did a video. That was the first content that I had made on my channel about anything DC, because I just had written my reviews for and I had skipped out of Birds of Prey because I was just like, I can't deal with it. I can't deal with it. But it was a very, very shocking experience to go through.
Absolutely.
And it's just crazy. And as I've been doing that's part of the reason why I wanted to do these panels, is so that we could share our experiences and you know, what it's like to just, when these trolls just focus on you. And it's just really, really sad, because I think I've said for a long time, I feel like what's happened with movies is kind of what's been with sports for a long time. You know, the people, this is my family, this is my team. If you insult it, you're insulting me. But the thing about sports is the sports has obvious winners and losers. There's literally a winner to whatever it is.
Yeah.
Whereas like for a movie, there's not. Like, it's just whatever you like what you like, you know? It's fine. And it's so funny because now, just like you were saying, Amy, with Justice League, now a lot of the Snyder people now are all of a sudden turned on Shazam, and they're making some of the same arguments that I made about Shazam. About its silly tone, and about, you know, some of the other things that I said. And you know, these are the same people that were, you know, they were calling me a Marvel tard. I'm just like, oh my gosh. It's so frustrating. But yeah, there's just nothing like it when you have an unpopular opinion, and it tests you. It really does.
Yep.
But let's talk about reviews that we're proud of that we've done. And I thought it would be fun, since this is a horror kind of themed episode of this, is actually just this very week. I have over on my blog, I have a blind spot series where every month I try to review a classic film that I haven't seen. And so this year I decided for October to review the original Halloween. And so I was really proud of I was really proud of
Yay.
it because I was, that was definitely out of my comfort zone. But I ended up actually enjoying it. I thought that it was a very well made movie, very well done. As far as you feel like the characters are constantly being watched the entire time. There's just this sense, even if they're just talking on the phone, there's just a sense that somebody's watching them. And I think a lot of that goes down to the music. So I was pretty proud. I said in my review that I said I can totally see why it's a classic and a favorite of horror fans. It's very well directed by Carpenter with a leering cinematography by Dean Cundey. Even when the characters are doing mundane things like talking on the phone or watching television, there's a sense they are being watched and they should be more careful than they are being. We as an audience know the deranged Michael Myers is out there, but the characters don't. This makes us anxious for them, and the violence, when it does happen, very effective. So I was pretty excited about that. So what about you, Shannon? What's a review that you feel like you were proud of, that you feel like is very well written, well done?
First, I'm going to say, when you get the chance, watch Trick or Treat.
Okay.
Is what you don't even see the huge collection on the side of the wall, but it is the best Halloween horror anthology of all time. But it literally is the best.
Okay.
And it's, just watch it.
You feel like it's a pretty good one for newbies?
Yes. There are some kill scenes that are, but Sam, who's this little guy, he's so cute.
Yeah.
He's so cute. But yes, I think that you can watch that fine as a newcomer. If you've watched Halloween, I think you can watch Trick or Treat.
Okay, cool.
That said, I'm going to go in a different direction. Probably the review that I'm most proud of is my review for Hereditary.
Mm.
That movie changed my life. Yes, I have something like that too that I got somewhere, and it says like about Toni Collette. That's still a trigger point.
If people are listening, Amy just has a nominate Toni Collette, you cowards, sticker on her laptop.
Oh my God, the rage. That I went to a press screening of that right when I found out my mom had breast cancer. And if you haven't seen the film, and also my dad had passed away 18 years ago. So that film destroyed me, but in like the best way possible, because it helped me be able to work through the grief and trauma of losing a loved one, because it was done in such a way, how it was shown with the younger, with the son, and how he was dealing and processing with certain aspects that happened in the film, was just incredible to see. It is a tough film to watch. It is one that needs to be watched multiple times. If you are not somebody that watches a lot of horror, do not start with that film at all. If we're doing levels, like Trick or Treat's here, Hereditary's like there. So there's a lot of room. But it was for a year, I thought about that film every single day. Like, I could not stop thinking about it, because Ari Aster he's brilliant. And then he came out with Midsummer. And though I think on a personal level that Hereditary is superior, that could be possibly because of my connection with it. Those films deal with the horrors of the supernatural and the horrors of reality in such a way that is just so mind-blowing. And he's like the nicest dude, just as an FYI. Like, you would never, he's very soft-spoken, very sweet. And I remember somebody, I think it was at the premiere of Midsummer, said to him, like, "Are you okay? Like, is everything okay?" Because he had gone through a breakup for Midsummer. And that's how Midsummer came to be. And he was like, "Why?" And the person was like, "Did you watch the movie you made? Like, are you know?" So Hereditary affected me in such a powerful way, and Midsummer had a very similar feel, but not to the same extent as Hereditary. And it's horrific. It's it's a lot of things, but
sometimes that can be really hard if we are so impacted, and to be able to convey that in a coherent, interesting way. That I feel like sometimes the reviews that we're the most passionate about can be the most challenging to write.
I had people. I've been obsessed with this movie since the first, and I saw it months before it was released, and I couldn't talk to anyone about it. So I was like, it was the only film I've seen where I came home from the screening. My partner wasn't home at the time, and he came home about 30 minutes later and was like, why is every single light in the apartment on? And I was like, oh, I have to make sure that there aren't things on the walls. And I'm not going to explain that. But he was like, okay, can I turn them off? And I was like, no, you can't. Like, you know, and then the movie came out and people would message me about how much they hated the movie as if I cared. And it got to the point where I actually had to tell people, please stop talking to me about this movie if you hate it, because this is not going to end well for either one of us. Like, I have a very strong emotional attachment to this movie, and I just don't care if you hate it. Like,
yeah. What about you, Amy? What's a review that you've done, or a video that you've done that you are proud of, that you really love?
I believe it was 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. What is time in quarantine, right? Who knows?
So true.
It could have been 3 months ago. But recently, I on my show, I talked about Tales from the Hood, the very first one, which is another horror anthology. Mm-hmm. And I realized that when I started doing the show, I was like, you know what, guys? I started the show at the end of May, and obviously a lot of things happened at the end of May, and I feel like I realized that even though I am Latina, that a lot of the movies I have watched since I was a kid have been very white. And so I didn't realize until I was older, where I was like, wait a second, where are my people? Like, where are they? What about everyone else? I mean, sure, you get some, like, you get Get Out, right? You get Us, which I love.
Yes.
Oh my God, I love both of them so much.
Right.
But it's the idea of wanting to expand my horizons and watch horror films that are right, that are foreign, you know, watch foreign films. And I hate the term foreign, because it's like, it's foreign to us, but it's not like foreign, right? So they're international. Mm-hmm. And opening up our horizons when it comes to horror. I feel like most people, when they think of horror, they think Halloween. I love Halloween, right? I love Friday the 13th. I love Nightmare on Elm Street. But a lot of those are very white. So that was one of my main goals with the show, every single week, to bring a movie that either a lot of us haven't heard of, or that show people of color at the forefront. And so I'd been wanting to watch Tales from the Hood for a while, and so I finally saw it, and I loved it. And the thing was, too, that there's so many things. I will never know what it's like to be Black, but that doesn't stop me from wanting to understand and wanting to get that perspective from people that are Black. Mm-hmm. And that's the same thing with everyone else, right? I mean, I could go on and on. So with Tales from the Hood, when I talked about it, I was like, you guys, I know the people that watch my show, and I know that they might not know about it. They might not care about it. And maybe if I talk about it, if they see me, because they're tuning in to watch me and like my weird, crazy faces and opinions and sounds that I make, then maybe they can watch that. Like, maybe I'll pique their interest to watch movies that they wouldn't normally watch. And so someone tweeted at me after the fact and was like, hey, that was like a really good review for Tales from the Hood, like one of the best I've seen. So glad that you talked about it. And I was like, wow, like, you watched it, because you're not in my chat, in my live chat. So thank you so much for watching it. Thank you for sharing that out on the internet. Whoever sees it, maybe they'll watch like Tales from the Hood now. And it's the same idea with Bong Joon-ho movies. Oh my goodness. Like, oh, stop. Like, not even. Yeah. And just, what is it? Train to Busan. Mm-hmm. There's so many that I'm like, I'm a huge Guillermo del Toro fan. So it's just, and today's his birthday. Happy birthday, GDT. I love you. So yeah, it's just expanding our horizons and getting excited about stuff that we wouldn't know about, and then having someone be like, hey, yeah, like, that's cool. I love that you did that. And I mean, I think it makes more sense for someone that's Black to talk about Tales from the Hood. But if it's either not watching it and not talking about it, or me trying to get you in that world and then maybe opening up that window and then you going and finding those Black women writers, those Black LGBTQ writers, reviewers, everyone, then that's awesome. I'm
I
just
love
like a
it.
little open, like a
Yeah.
door,
Yeah, that's right. That's the best feeling as a critic, is when you get a chance, like I said, in the introduction of the new, the support of the new, and even if it's not technically new to you, new to your community, new to your friends, introducing them to it. And Roger Ebert, he would say that that the movies are a machine for creating empathy. And I think that that's really, really true. That it doesn't matter the genre, but you get a chance to walk in another person's shoes that you would never have before. And even if it's in a fantasy setting, that's still the conflict that a character may be experiencing may be something that you had never experienced before. Like, say a character is divorced. I'm not divorced, but I can watch a movie about somebody that's divorced and understand and have empathy now for that character, and for other people in my life who are going through that situation. I mean, I thought about that a lot when Moonlight came out. Like, when I mean, I'm probably never going to meet somebody like Sharon in Moonlight in my life. I live in Utah. I'm just probably never going to meet a gay Black man from, Florida, where he's at, and all of that. I'd love to, but the chance to sort of experience his life was a really wonderful, moving experience that I'll never forget, and it was very special to me. And so I think that when movies can have that power, it really changes you. And that's when the whole community that we have, whether it's on YouTube or in the blogosphere or film Twitter or whatever it might be, is at its best, when we are supporting one another with our different views, different styles, and becoming a better person because of this incredible art that we all enjoy. And so I think it's a great experience when that can happen. It makes it all worth it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, well, very good. You both are so fun. I've really enjoyed getting to talk with you and getting your perspectives. Thank you so much for doing this. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm excited. Hopefully we can collab again. I really enjoyed this a lot. So why don't you share how people can find your content on social media, and also your content, and I'll have that all in the description section as well. But Shannon, what about you? How can people find you?
You can find all Nightmarish Conjuring stuff on Facebook and Instagram at Nightmarish Conjurings, and on Twitter at Nightmarish with a 1 at the end. So MAR1I or SH. It's been a long day. And then for me, you can find me at Shannon_McGrew on Twitter, or on Instagram at Horror Design Chick.
Great. And what about you, Amy?
You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Amy Cassandra MTZ. If you guys don't have Letterboxd, get Letterboxd. It's great.
Yes.
Basically, you just review. It's not sponsored. I always talk about Letterboxd this way, but I love it so much because it's like a diary for all your movies. And on my YouTube, it's basically youtube.com/Amy Cassandra. That's it. And that shows every Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. I also recently started streaming on Twitch. I started streaming horror video games. It's so exciting. So twitch.com, no, that's not true. Twitch.tv/Amy Cassandra MTZ. It rhymes. And yeah, I mean, I'm just everywhere. So just like find me and then just kind of like go through all the tunnels and stuff.
Great. Yeah. And like I said, we'll have all that in the description section. So make sure you're all checking it out. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Been doing a lot of reviews, so make sure to check that out. And also at the Hallmarkies podcast, we have where we started covering Christmas this week, which is crazy, but it's so fun. We got our preview shows going on over there, so make sure to check that out. You'll really enjoy it. And so thanks so much, everybody. We'd like to hear your comments, and we'll talk to you all. We'll talk to you all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.